They're still
Are we
coming.
recording?
Not yet, just started.
Okay. All right, it's 10:01 a.m., so I will call this meeting of the MFAC to order. Our first item is approval of the April 20th minutes. Has everybody had an opportunity to review them? Are there any changes?
I'll move acceptance.
Okay, so Kim moved and Diane seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, anybody opposed? Any abstentions?
I need to abstain because I wasn't at the last meeting.
Okay, that's John.
Yes.
Anybody else? Okay, the motion carries. Okay. Our first guest today, town of Brooklyn. Let me see. And who do we have here from Brooklyn?
Austin Tanner and Rushi Bean.
Okay, so you sent us an update. Is there anything you wanted to add to that update at this point?
Or maybe a quick overview, Kate, if you don't mind, for those that may not had a full opportunity to get through this large package.
Okay, so our new budget was approved June 21st.
What kind of increase does that represent?
1.06 mil increase.
Okay.
A lot of the increase was due to salaries. We were adding a full-time finance director position because right now I am a shared position as a finance director for the school and town. So the school and the town now will have, as effective July 1st, have budgeted for a full-time finance director for school and town functions.
So you're saying one for each?
Yes.
Okay.
We have found that the shared role is a little bit too much for one person.
Okay.
And we've split that out.
Okay.
Okay. I don't know, Austin, you want to add anything about the new budget, fiscal year 23?
Well, she said most of his salaries, part of it was that, and another part was last year we didn't include any salary increases because we had negotiations.
Yep.
So this year basically we had 2 salary increases in this year's budget. So a big share of our increase was that, along with the finance director. So, but I think it's a reasonable budget, and we didn't cut any services, and it was approved unanimously at the town meeting, so we're happy with it.
Okay, so when you said you didn't have anything in the budget for the union contract increases last year, because you were in negotiations, might I suggest in the future, when you have a contract that is open, you should be putting something in the budget. You can accrue it at the end of the year if you haven't settled, and but you should always put that in your budget when the contract is open.
We're advised that if we put it in there, then the union says you got the money, give it to us.
Well,
if we do put it in, we usually put it in contingency.
yeah, you put it in contingency. You don't have to reveal what the basis for that dollar amount is. You know, I'll tell you what we do is we have one salary contingency line that covers the non-recs in any union contracts that are open. And you don't have to talk about how you arrived at that number, but by putting that number in there, you can charge the increase to the appropriate year. So if you don't settle by the end of the fiscal year, you have the funds set aside. So just to
be clear, there was a contingency in this year's budget for salaries.
Okay.
So, yes.
But it didn't show up in the budget because it wasn't budgeted in their salaries.
Okay.
He's talking about in the salary line.
Yep.
So it's
Okay,
hitting
got it.
contingency.
Got it.
Yeah.
Where do you stand with your ARPA funds?
We have a committee. We haven't spent any of it yet. We have a committee that's working on it. We've asked for applications, which are due tomorrow, 30th. We've set up a small fund for nonprofits and smaller, under 10,000, that we can spend more speedily, and the rest of it we're going to review after we get all the applications in and decide how we're going to spend it. Hopefully we'll have it. The goal is to have most of it allocated by October.
Okay. And I saw in the update you provided, you say that your tax collections have been good with a collection rate of 99%. But then I wasn't sure when I looked at your projected year-end results. Just wanted to clarify, when you say collection rate of 99%, are you referring to the amount that was billed or the amount that was budgeted?
I'm sorry, the amount that was
Build.
billed.
Okay,
We're over the budgeted amount. Car taxes are way up.
right, but your current property taxes, you were showing, your projection showed a shortfall.
I mean, that we're still waiting on posting a couple deposits and that sort of thing. So
Yeah, I'm looking at the projected year-end results and it showed a minor shortfall, which is why I had the question.
Okay, got it.
They're still coming in.
Okay. So you had savings, you're expecting your final expenditures to be under budget by about 315,000. And can you tell us where that came from? Since you said it's not the Board of Ed.
It is not the Board of Ed. Let's see what I have here. I didn't bring my summary sheet.
But there's some items like hazardous waste is 10,000. Highway is going to have some left.
Yep. So just kind of all over, not any one particular
Yeah,
item?
we had funds for library, our cemetery mowing, which wasn't spent. It's not like it's one big item.
Mhm.
Okay, all right, that's good. All right, and you sent us clarification on the finding that we had asked for from the auditors
Mhm.
about the year-end closing procedures. So I was just wondering if you could give us an update on where you stand with those, you know, like your due tos and due froms balancing and all bank accounts being reconciled. Can you give us an update on those?
Bank statement and bank accounts are being reconciled on a regular basis. That had been an issue in the past, but it hasn't been for the last couple years now. So that is fine. I'm talking with King and King, and we already have them set up to come in July to start testing expenditures and texting in July for this year. King and King had sent me a list of items, but I think I shared with MFAC the list of recommendations on what we haven't been doing as far as year-end entries. I'm continuing to work with them on that. I'm not sure what else you would like to know.
I'm just hoping to see that, payables, you're a few days away from that still, but the payables and receivables will be recorded in the appropriate year.
Yes.
Have you been recording the activity of the pension fund?
We have not.
Okay, so that's something that you need to get caught up on.
Yes.
WPCA trial balances, are those all being taken care of?
The WPCA's, I'm working with WPCA, so they use a different a computer program.
Okay.
They use QuickBooks. So I have sent them the information that we need, the information for the auditors. I'm trying to coordinate with them as best as they can. The person that works with WPCA, she only works about 4 hours for the WPCA. So that has been an issue. Just, you know, I mean, she only works about 4 hours for the WPCA. So communication is sometimes difficult and to get things in a timely manner, but I'm continuing to work with them.
Okay. All right. Shut up for a minute and start with Diane. Do you have any questions?
I do not. Let me show up you.
Glenn? Glenn Rebecca? You need to unmute yourself, Glenn. Okay, we're going to skip ahead to John.
None. Yeah, the unmute takes a long time to register.
Okay. I see Glenn is unmuted now. Glenn, do you have any questions?
No, I do not. Just IT questions, I guess, for me.
Okay. Becky?
I have nothing further.
Tony?
I'm all set, thanks.
Okay. Kim?
2 questions. The findings that are noted here, are those really, they're not all focused towards the town, if I'm correct on that it had, some of them were focused on the Board of Ed. And I think it's because you were playing both roles, right? And so this is a combined list of both Board of Ed and town, correct?
That is correct, yes.
Okay. Would you then say that most of these findings are like more on the Board of Ed or more on the town side, or no, it's equally?
I would say that they're more on the town side.
Okay. My next question is that in the new position that you're looking to fill, which would then now alleviate some of your responsibilities, I'm assuming, or are you moving over to the Board of Ed? Is this decision made, or we don't know that yet?
The decision is made that I would be on the school side, on the Board of Ed side.
Okay, and then they're just going to fill the finance side, this role
On the
here
town.
on the town.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
All right. Very good.
Yep. And I will continue to work with whoever they hire to transition that person.
Perfect.
Mhm.
Thank you.
I'm looking at your projected year-end results.
Okay.
And you're showing that you've received 127,800 in the Mashantucket grant, that you have about 64 still due. Is that reasonable that you're expecting you'll still get that 64?
Yes, we are. The 63,901, we are definitely receiving it. We usually receive it by 6:30 every year.
Okay. All right. And okay, so I was also looking at your expenditure report,
Okay.
the year to date, and I noticed a lot of accounts a little bit over.
Mhm.
So just wondered, what's your procedure for transfers? How often do you do them? Who approves them? Is it a Board of Finance process, Board of Selectmen,
Board of Finance.
Board of Finance, and how frequently do you do them?
I believe the town has historically only done them at one time a year.
Okay, you know, then
Unless-
again, I'm going to suggest you might
Mhm.
want to do that more frequently, you know,
Yes.
the new finance director,
Mhm.
because I think you'll get a better picture of where you're going to end up if you're doing them on a regular basis.
Yes.
And it doesn't look like anything's too wild, but you just don't want things getting out of control, and it really gives you a true picture of where you stand when you do them
Mhm.
regularly.
Yep.
Usually the total department budgets are in line. It's usually individual things within each department budget. So I don't see why that would give us a better picture.
Because you might end up with things going more out of line than you expect. You know, if your departments are not on top of it and the board is not paying attention to it regularly, it's
We
just a
do,
bad.
yeah, we do review the financials at every Board of Finance meeting. We don't wait till the
Yeah,
end.
I'm looking at one right here that the entire budget is over.
That repairs in the green building.
It is your resource recovery.
Mhm.
It's a suggestion. You also, your green building, yeah, that's over, but
We had some turnover there and updates. So that's why that's over. It's out of line. We just had a difficult year there. New staff and new accommodations to get things in line.
okay. All right, does anybody else have anything?
Kate, the only thing, just to piggyback on what you said, I mean, I know doing the transfers on a more frequent basis are better. So I agree with that suggestion. Again, it is a suggestion, but looking at the year-to-date report that's here, there are quite a number of departments that are over. And I don't know what the charter requirements are with regard to that. I know in some communities, you can't overspend a budget department-wise or division-wise. So I don't know if that might help as well as whatever is in the town's charter.
First off, we don't have a charter. We're not a charter town.
Got it. That answers that question.
Okay.
But again, it is a good practice to do them more frequently.
Okay.
All right, is there anything else? When do you expect to put that position out there, advertise it? And when are you hoping
It's
to
been
fill it?
advertised. We expect to hire within the next week or two.
Oh, awesome. Awesome. Good luck to you. We look forward to meeting the new finance director.
I hope you'll continue to join us, Ruchi.
I will if I'm welcome.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Okay.
All right. Next up, we have Derby. Let's see.
Kate,
Yes.
I just want to identify that Derby is a client with my firm for closure purpose.
Okay, thank you, Glenn. And who do we have here from Derby today?
Matt Conway, Superintendent of Schools.
Robbie Trainer, Business Manager.
Walt Mayhew, Chief of Staff.
And Mark Izzo.
And Nancy Belsis is our interim deputy director. She's here as well, as is.
Yes. We can't hear you, Walt.
I said Nancy Belsis, who is our interim deputy director, is here as well, as is Mayor Rich Seacon.
Okay. Okay.
I'm John Accavallo. I'm the auditor of the city.
Okay. The independent auditor.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. All right, so you've already answered one of my questions. You said you hired an interim deputy director with extensive municipal finance experience. Can you just okay, guess not.
Kate, I think you beeped out. We didn't get to hear everything. Sorry.
Oh, well, the update had said you hired an interim deputy finance director with extensive municipal experience who's overseeing the work of the finance department. I was just wondering about if we could have a little description of your municipal experience. Just
sure. Nancy, you want to unmute and let her give her your background?
Sure. I worked in the City of Waterbury Finance Office as their senior accountant for 14 years. After that, I went over to one of the workforce investment boards, and which is a quasi city agency, and in those. So I have extensive experience with municipal finance and grants and pass-throughs.
great, thank you, thank you. I'm looking down for my. Okay. And just going down, is there anything that you want to tell us? Update to the update that was provided, any additional information, any color that you want to give us?
No, I think the reports that you asked for and the summary that we provided, the narrative and so forth, contain all the information and is up to date as we have.
Okay. All right. So, all right.
Okay, may I ask?
Go ahead.
I think it would be helpful if Walt would just quickly hit the highlights through this, because I'll be honest with you, I'm just coming off of vacation and I wasn't able to personally dig through all of my materials. So
Sure.
if you could, in my absence, if you could just give a highlight, and I know that we have enough time, I think that it would be helpful. Also, Kate, I want to bring to your attention, we did ask from the last time for the auditor to come, because the audit has not been completed. And so that is one of the biggest highlights is that audit. Thank you. Sorry.
Sure, happy to do that. And that is exactly why the auditor is here, along with the members representing the Board of Education. So basically, the hiring of the interim deputy finance director was an important step for us. The DOE has brought in a new business manager who is also present on the meeting. As far as the budget highlights and presumptions, those are pretty much exactly what they were last month. The budget was adopted almost as presented by the mayor. There was a slight change regarding the finance of a position in public works and some redistribution of the expenditures to other line items, but in essence, it was adopted just as presented and as we had discussed at the last meeting when it comes to the various assumptions and presumptions that were part of that as well. The comparative analysis report, let me pull that up. So basically, when you take a look at prior year performance, taxes are slightly behind where they were at this time last May, but they are close. The supplemental motor vehicles, however, is higher than what they were in the previous year. And the projection towards the end of the year is based upon using the 5th month after July, because June represents the 5th month after January. Collections have been issued, and the estimate is that the property taxes will come in at 99.1% budget. The supplemental motor vehicles will come in at 156.9, which is where they are now. We didn't add anything to that. And so that the total taxes collected, we are estimating to be at 99.6 of what was budgeted. Just to give you, at the time the reports were required, the most up-to-date figures that we had. Now, obviously, May is closed. It is balanced. It is reconciled to the bank statements. That's something that Nancy brought with her with an ability to do, which we have struggled to do on a regular basis prior to that. But if you include the currently unbalanced but reported in the general ledger expenses and revenues, we're approximately $1 million with revenues exceeding expenditures. We do have 2 payrolls which are coming tomorrow, which will be major expenses. The Board of Education typically runs about $750,000, but last week I believe was their balloon payroll, so I don't think the numbers for that will be as high. But again, they can supply that information. And the city payroll is, Nance, what was the amount of the city payroll that we were talking about? 150, 175?
We're running about 140, 150.
Okay, 140, 150. So even with those 2 numbers and closing of the expenditures in, a day, we feel pretty confident we're going to be in very good financial shape with that.
So you said your taxes were 99% of budget. What collection rate did you estimate?
99.
And was that on your billed or on your?
It was 99% of the bills, yes.
Okay, so you've only collected 99% of budget.
Correct.
So you're a little.
Slightly behind, yes.
Yeah, okay. Do you know any particular reason, or was it one big person?
I don't have that information. We do have, we just recently started to look at delinquent taxpayers, and there are a significant number of those. So that may be a factor. Okay.
I see a couple of big other items like LoCIP funds from previous years, WPCA health insurance premium where nothing has been collected, and those are pretty big numbers. Is there something, are they going to be booked tomorrow, the end of the year?
Yes, they will be.
Okay. What about parking garage daily receipts?
Those are up to date through May.
The report that I'm seeing doesn't have anything received for parking garage.
Parking.
That may be a different item. Let's see. Because I know that we take in about $80,000 a year annually in revenue, gross revenue from the garage. So.
Okay. Yeah, you've got 155 budgeted, but I'm not seeing that it was booked. Any significant issues on the expenditure side of things coming in or over?
Well, there was the whole issue of the body cams, which has received all kinds of press down here. But we were just told by the department that the grant for that money was approved, and we had recommended to the vote last night, but they did not have a quorum to transfer money from one line item into the account that was created and overdrawn in the budget to finalize the payment of that.
Okay.
But I think that's the only significant item.
What about the police pension? You're over by about $100,000 there.
Let me pull that one up. What line item are you looking at?
I'm looking at your appropriation summary.
Uh-huh.
And it is, let's see, page 2 of 15. It's retirement. The org looks like 2,300, and the second line is police pension. You budgeted 650 originally, increased it to 750, but you spent 850.
Yes, I don't have an answer for you on that.
Okay.
We'll get one for you.
Okay. And then going on to the next page, looking at your retiree medical benefits. Your pay as you go?
Yes, I believe that's the case.
And is there any thought to, I see in your update, you had concerns about compensated absences, a termination benefit that you were going to be looking at, which really is not a post-employment benefit.
Yes, I
But
understand.
the retiree medical most definitely is a post-retirement benefit. Are you looking at moving to a trust for that?
We have, as far as I know, we have asked the actuary to work on some figures for that for us so that we could determine what the liability for the city might be.
Okay, that would be very, very good. Then I had a question going back to your update, your 53-week police payroll.
Yep.
Do you pay to date or in arrears?
I believe that's paid to date.
Okay. So if you're paying them, if you're giving them a check on Friday, it's through July 1st?
I believe that's the case. I know that's the case with the city hall unions. I don't
Okay,
believe
all right.
they withhold a week or two, as some places do.
Yeah, okay. Then that answers some of my other questions. Okay. Diane, do you have anything?
I do not at this time, thanks.
Glenn? Oh, Glenn, your conflict. John? Was that a no, John?
Yeah, no, that's a yes. I'd just like to hear a little bit about the issues with the audit still being outstanding. Hi, John.
The 21 audit is still outstanding.
Yes.
That's correct. The major issue was getting a balanced trial balance from the Board of Education, and that was in agreement with the city. Now, both sides know what was paid over and what was received. The Board of Education maintains a single cash account, which is commingled with grants and other things. So there's one checking account that's paying everything out. At the end, a firm was contracted to come in and assist. So Doc tried to bring in help because there was a finance director, Board of Ed business manager that retired during the year, and then the individual that was there ended up leaving shortly during the audit process. I don't think we did anything to him to upset him. I just think he was over his head at the time. So there was a delay in that as well. So the outside company came in to assist, but the information that we were getting since January off and on did not make sense, did not agree with beginning balances, transactions didn't appear to be being recognized on the Board of Ed's books. There's netting of transactions such as deposits that aren't being recorded on the city side. So you're going to have a difference, and there's never going to be a difference if those variables are unknown along the way. So the communication during the year wasn't taking place. So you just have two parties that are saying that we're reconciled when they're comparing the cash deposits, and that has nothing to do with the expenditure number. So we have to and had to unravel everything, including the payments that were deposited, the credits against the expenditure balances, and gross things up to where they needed to be. There were deposits that were recorded that didn't happen on the Board of Ed's books. Maybe it was in anticipation of money being transferred over that should have been transferred over, possibly, such as like adult ed grant, and there's a second half of the special ed money, 120,000. So I'm getting reconciliations and was getting reconciliations at the time that these cash accounts did not agree with the general ledger that was just put into place with the Board of Ed to the tune of $1 million. So basically, I started questioning everything at that point in time and saying that the reconciliations are incorrect, the beginning balances are incorrect, and we had to go through and retest and compile and summarize things. Accounts payables aren't recorded on the city's books at the end of the year for the balances that were paid subsequent to year end. That there was no list that was available by the Board of Ed. At the time. So we had to summarize the cash disbursements and verify that they were indeed expenditures that related to the fiscal year that was under audit, which we did. Right now, after everything that was said and done, we have all the information that we need from the Board of Ed. The new business manager was helpful, uploading for us. Doc was helpful in pushing people to get us what we needed. But we still have, I would say, about a week left of work on this, of which, you know, we'll probably have a report drafted within the next day or two, of which we have to go over the draft with the client, the adjustments, and the findings. Of last year's findings, there were 5 that were cleared out of the 15. So there was, in my opinion, significant progress that was being made related to bank reconciliations, but there were also a couple, 2 new findings. So it was a lot of progress, and then a couple steps backwards on it. So that's where we are, Kate, right now.
Okay, thank you.
John?
Since I'm assuming that it means that the beginning numbers are somewhat maybe different from what you started. Is any of this rolling over to affect the numbers you're working with now?
The beginning balances for the Board of Education, all we're doing is rolling their cash balances, John.
No, I understand that, but if it's anything, there's for a debit, well, you know that.
Yeah. That's part of the problem.
If we haven't been able to nail the beginning balance sheet, how much of that is affecting the expenditure numbers and revenue numbers, if not the cash, in what the town is working with now, in your opinion?
Well, the Board of Ed. The Board of Ed numbers are, you know, those balances aren't affecting the bottom line for the city. You know, and as far as I know, from what I've seen, and I was sent reconciliations for the city, so I know that they're much more current with their bank reconciliations. But as far as reversing adjustments and things like that, yes, the current year adjustments, when I say current year, I'm talking 6/30/21 aren't recorded. So the numbers that you have right now, to answer your question, is yes, it does affect your balances. But I will say on the city side, the adjustments to the general fund were 5 this year.
Gotcha.
And most of them were balance sheet only, which in comparison to the previous year are significantly better. So I just think that the numbers that you have, other than the Board of Education numbers on the city's books, are pretty good. Other than the IBNR numbers that they're recorded in the general fund.
Thank you.
Which went up slightly, by the way, from the previous year.
To give a draft report, do you believe that the fiscal 22 report can be filed on time from what you're seeing as a progress so far?
I would be, I hate giving you an answer, Kate, on that and say yes, because I mean, so many things change during a year, and there's so many different players. But if with all things being equal, and if they continue down the path that they're going, I do not see a reason why it shouldn't be filed timely.
That's good enough. I'd have been more concerned if you had said, you know, even with this, no way.
No, they've made significant improvements along the way.
Do you feel comfortable that the new people in place at the Board of Ed who are on the call here, that they're committed to making improvements?
From my experience working with Doc, yes.
Okay.
The business manager that is in there right now, Robbie, he's I have limited experience working with him. He just started. But he's gotten me everything I've asked for almost immediately. So that I can say.
Okay, John, are you good? Becky, do you have anything?
No, I don't, Kate. Thank you.
Tony?
I do have a question about, so the $5.9 million fund balance, John, or if anybody knows the answer to this question that was in the summary, that's through what date? Does anybody know that?
I don't know. I don't know what you're looking at, but I'm anticipating that they have a surplus this year.
For 22?
For 21. Yes. Yeah, I don't know if that's reflected in the numbers because the accounting package that the city has, it has to be closed. They have to be closed out from the control accounts directly into the fund balance. And I don't think that has happened and wouldn't happen until they have the audit adjustments posted.
And preliminary figures based upon the close of the books for last fiscal year does include a $1.5 million surplus.
I'm sorry, could you speak up? That was very hard to hear.
I'm sorry. I have to lean in. My microphone isn't as great as it should be. That number includes the $1.5 million surplus that was projected at the end of the closing of the fiscal year last year, which is the surplus that the auditor is talking about.
That's 9 million. That's
No,
the change, or is that the balance?
It's the 5 point whatever it is.
5.9.
5.9. So that's the balance with an anticipated surplus at the end of 2021, although we're not sure yet until you reconcile with the Board of Ed.
It includes the 1.5 million, yes.
Okay. And then it appears as if, I'm just trying to get a handle on fund balance. It appears as if there's some, you have a revenue, revenue 2 million to collect and you're 22 through May. This is through May. I know you spoke a little bit about this. What is your anticipation on that? I know there's a grant for distressed municipalities, which I believe you're not collecting for $1 million.
Correct.
What do you anticipate having for uncollected revenues as of the end of 22? Because you have a $500,000 fund balance contribution, you have roughly $1 million in the grant that we just discussed. That's like $1 million.
I don't anticipate that grant is going to be received. I believe that was included based upon the legislative budget that was put out, and then it was cut out of the governor's budget. So we don't anticipate that coming. What was the other item?
What I'm trying to get at is, do you think you'll have enough in either surplus revenues or unexpended appropriations to cover the shortfall you'll have for that grant and your fund balance contribution? Or do you think your fund balance will be reduced further after reduced after 2022?
Yes, we don't anticipate any significant reduction in the fund balance at the end of the fiscal 21-22 budget. We are approximately $1 million ahead of revenue over expenses as of a few days ago. And we have 2 payrolls left to meet, which are being put out on Friday. The max is anticipated to be around 800 to 900,000. So it will be close, but it will not be a significant amount either way.
Okay, thanks. The reason why I was asking is because I also noticed in next year's budget you have a roughly almost $1 million fund balance contribution, and I was a little concerned about that.
Yeah, the reason for that is the increase in health insurance for the city, of which over $1 million is part of, I believe that around $1 million is for the Board of Education, and about 300,000 is for city employees. And we were informed by our insurance carrier that the reason for that increase was the pent-up demand from COVID and people coming back and starting to use their insurance at rates that were higher than anticipated. They said to us that they believed that was a one-time situation, and that they would expect that the experience rate would drop significantly in the next year. And so we considered it a one-time expense and felt that the use of the fund balance was an appropriate way to pay for a portion of those costs. The city did use $300,000 out of its tax revenue to pay for that increase as well.
Okay, thank you.
Kim?
Yes. So John, the auditor, are you planning a restatement from the prior year beginning balance from what you're noting?
No,
You're not?
no. And I also want to point out that as of 6/30/21, depending on how the city spent the ARPA money, it was a liability on the books of $1.8 million. So I don't know how that impacts the bottom line or how they spent the ARPA money, but I thought it's worth mentioning to the board, so you know that they had $1.8 million sitting in deferred revenue as of 6/30/21 that was recorded on the city's books. So they might be taking some of that into revenue into 22, depending on how it was spent.
And that's work you still have to evaluate?
That's yeah. I haven't done anything with the current year, Kim.
So you're just going to leave the liability until you get there, that you have no expenditures to offset that?
Yep. Well, I would hope that they would do it before I get there.
No, I'm talking about 21, not 22.
Yeah, no, it's not. It came
Okay.
in at the end of the year, so.
Oh, okay. That's
It's
all. I wasn't sure if you had more work to do on it. Okay.
No.
Are we talking current year or past year?
I was talking past year
Okay.
to get clarified, but then John was making me aware of the current year, that
Yeah.
that is still to be tested in the current year, that none of the funds were used in the prior year because it came in at the end of the fiscal year for 21.
Yes, there's approximately $1.7 million in a bank account that represents the prior disbursement of ARPA. We have asked the Board of Aldermen to engage the services of the Naugatuck Valley Council of Governments to administer the ARPA funds, and we are awaiting their decision on that. Nothing will be done with those funds until there is a designee to oversee the funds and ensure compliance, which I think we were all in agreement from different conversations that had taken place before. It's not a task that we want assigned to the people in the finance department. We would prefer that not be added to the workload that they already have.
I totally agree with that. That if you're bringing a firm to be able to do that, who is qualified, educated, and can understand how to administer grants, that would be quite helpful, I think, to the city. That's my personal opinion, as well as you have a long list of audit findings. So I call that, to me, your housekeeping, and your housekeeping is not up to par, and you need somebody to get the finances in order. I do have another question for John. And John, you have experienced and worked with, I'm assuming, the prior finance director, and I know we're not here to speak about her. What I'm talking about is the work. And so I'm hoping that you're going to tell me that you saw progress from the moment that the prior finance director that is on leave, I'm going to say she's not prior, she's on leave is what I'm told, unless the status of that has changed, then I would want the city to bring us up to date with that.
It has not changed yet.
Okay. And that you have a deputy, Nancy, that has come in. And Nancy, you've been there for what, 1 month, 2 months?
Almost 3.
Almost 3 months. Okay. We have a deputy.
Actually 3.5.
Okay. So I'm assuming that the progress that you have made, that you have seen, that some of that progress had to come from the finance director that is currently on leave in order to see some of the progress. Would you say yes or no?
Well, the number of, sure.
Okay.
I mean, the
Okay.
number of adjustments, but also, remember that the lateness of the financial reporting gives people a lot of time to correct mistakes that have been there all along, even during the year that was under audit. So by the time we get the reports, you get somebody in there that can make some journal entries. Yes, they can correct things, but by the time we got a final trial balance, like I said, there was 5 general fund audit adjustments, and in the previous year there were significantly more than that.
Okay. Well, then that is good. And I understand last year's audit was very late and this year's audit is still very late. So, you're staying with the city is staying on the same pattern,
Well, hopefully we can get it done within the next week or so, but I mean, they're
If you're still doing field work, then
it's still late. Yeah, there's
right.
no that just begs, that there are or were problems during the year. But right now I can tell you that, from what I've seen, they're more up to date with bank reconciliations and doing the little things right that need to be done. Tying out the balance sheet, making sure that their ledgers are in balance, trial balance is in balance. None of that was ever done in the past, Kim.
Very good. Thank you. But now our concern is making sure that we get the Board of Ed side so that the city is trued up. So you got the true up from the town side, but apparently that we've been hearing that it's definitely lacked on the Board of Ed side.
There's adjustments to their general ledger that weren't recorded on the city's books. That's the problem. Plus, there's a lot of transfers in and out. They pay for the school lunch programs, payroll. If there's lags in the payment, there needs to be due to funds that need to be recorded, or else the expenditures are overstated and one or the other. I've been trying to push them to go to see if the payroll company could pull money directly out of the school lunch program cash account. So there is no need to ask them for a check. But it's a work in process right now, and we're at 6/29. So last year is done, and there's no way to fix it.
Right, you have another whole year. Mm-hmm.
So I would assume that some of the recommendations that will be coming forward will address regular reconciliation with the town or the city. Is there any thought to, I guess, the city's overburdened as it is, so putting the bank accounts back on their side might be too much, but they need to address these things on a regular basis, not just once at year end.
I agree. If the Board of Ed is going to administer their cash accounts, my recommendation on it is that they fund the check runs only, and not take a broad brush approach to funding the Board of Education, and any adjustments, if there are checks that come in for tuition or they get DSS money, those funds are turned over, and to keep the numbers at gross. And then you have a clean ledger, and it's hard to screw that up.
Right. What about the commingling, getting the grants into a separate account? Okay.
The grants that is a recommendation, that the grants have a separate and distinct bank account. And right now the monies are being deposited into a separate account from the state, but it's not associated with a checking account.
Okay.
They have a savings account, and then when the monies need to get transferred over, they're transferred over into the operations, which is fine using a cash pool account, but it has to be tied out to a full set of balancing accounts, and that's not the case.
Got it.
Okay. right. Did you have more, Kim?
I have one more. For the city to bring this board up to date on the number of vacancies that the city is still experiencing, because I know that we still had a number, and so I just would like to hear about the personnel and the staffing side.
Right.
In the finance office we're talking about? There is currently a vacancy in the tax office. We are finalizing a review of the job description for the tax collector. Once that's finalized internally, then it will be submitted back to the union, because unfortunately that's still a union position, even though it's supervisory in nature. Once that's approved by the union, then we need to have a process where we advertise or post internally, and then we are free to post outside. In the past, the city had employed a full-time tax collector. They had tried to hire a full-time tax collector and did not receive enough qualified candidates to hire. They changed their approach to try to hire a part-time tax collector, and that didn't work, so we're back to a full-time tax collector. Hopefully, we can begin advertising the position over the summer.
Who is overseeing this?
Everything falls to the chief of staff, unfortunately, Ms. Kennison.
That's you.
It is.
That's a lot.
It is. It's way more than I ever bargained for.
What about,
we do have an assistant in the office who takes care of the day-to-day operations, and she coordinates with me regarding, you know, the enactment of the motor vehicle program, bringing in people to deal with past due collections and things like that. We just recently gave a number of our back due taxes going back. We typically don't do the 2 years or so beyond current to a service, but we took all of the others that were behind, and we gave them to TaxServe to pursue collection on. So those are the kinds of things right now that I get involved with. They're more high level and receiving reports on, you know, percentage of collection and things like that.
More. That was just one of the positions. I think that we had more.
What
economic?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Grants.
Yes. Economic Development Director. Yes, we have been advertising for that, and resumes have been forwarded to the search committee. After our first round of advertising, they did not have any applicants who they wanted to bring in for an interview. We had asked the Board of Apportionment and Taxation for additional funds to do continued advertising and to expand the advertising to other, well, like Monster and things like that. And to date, we have only received one new application, which came, I think it was last week, which I have to forward to the search committee. That application looks promising. They do have a relevant experience and so forth. And we are right now almost at the end of the additional advertising. I think it comes due again in the middle of July. So it will be up to the committee at that point to decide whether they want to move forward with a single, potentially with a single qualified applicant, or whether they want to try to continue to advertise and see if they can get additional candidates.
How about your grant situation?
The grant situation, we do not have a solution for at this point. We had been in contact with the NVCOG, looking to potentially do a hybrid partnership kind of an arrangement. They have not, as of yet, come back to us with a proposal on taking that forward. I think there may be one other community who is in a similar situation, and if that's the case, then they will bring back to us a proposal as to what that cost would be to the city. I know they were even considering going out and hiring somebody and then back billing members of the COG who wanted to use those services. But that has not taken place yet.
Any, and on the Board of Ed, do you, in that finance area, do we still have issues over there? Do you? Do you have vacancies?
Oh, I'm sorry. No, we have filled our business manager position. We have our former business manager managing grants at this time. So we are in conversation now with just taking do we need additional support in our accounts payable department? And with that, coupling that with backup for payroll. So right now we do not have backup for payroll. We were able to bring in a prior payroll manager who had retired to cover during a maternity leave, which helped significantly, obviously, but not knowing whether he'll always be available moving forward. I'd rather have somebody in-house anytime there's a need for support with payroll. So we're looking at expanding that particular role to be accounts payable and then backup for payroll or assist with payroll on a bi-weekly basis so they're familiar with the system. Because we are looking at the possibility of transitioning under one system, IV, which we use for our books, to also, it does have a payroll module, and does that make sense? So we're looking at that as well. Right now, we contract out with ACES for our accounts payable, and have recently had to request an increase from 3 days a week to 4 days a week to manage things correctly. But does it make it more sense to bring it back in-house as it was historically?
Okay, and is payroll contracted out as well?
We have a payroll person running our payroll, but that is through paychecks.
Okay.
They're our employee, but we process it through paychecks, but there's still obviously quite a bit of work that the office has to do to prepare the payroll for paychecks. We're looking at, does it make sense to turn everything, run everything through IV as opposed to a payroll company?
You'd have to have somebody who, if you do IV, and if IV is not a payroll company, it's just a software, then you'd have to have somebody with the expertise of payroll.
Got it. Yes,
yeah.
That's exactly what we're looking at.
And I would be careful if you know, because when you have a vacancy, it's different when you have a consultant, you know what I mean, doing the work that can understand the laws and the regs behind that than when you bring it inside. Sometimes that can catch you. What about the payroll on the city side? Is that in-house or is that with a consulting firm?
It's in-house, run through Paycor.
Okay. That's it for me, Kate.
Okay. All right. Anybody else? Circling back. Okay. All right. Well, we'll be hoping to see that 21 audit fairly soon, and particularly we'll want to see the recommendations and the findings. And at our next meeting, I think we'd like to see a status update on the 22, how that process, the 22 audit is going. Trying to keep you on time and get you back on, back on track. Okay, so I think next up we have Hamden. And Kim, if you don't mind, I have to step out for a moment. If you would start with Hamden.
Will do.
Thanks.
Good morning. This is
Hi.
Lindsay. I have with me Curtis Eatman, our finance director, and on the phone we have Barry Bernabe, our financial advisor. If you don't mind, I would like for Barry to get started with our debt restructuring, and then I can give you a summary of what we've been doing and answer any questions.
That works. Thank you.
Okay,
Great.
thank you.
So Mayor, you wanted me to jump into the debt restructuring?
Yes, please. Thank you.
Sure. So the town of Hamden just recently sold refunding bonds yesterday, and we were able to save the town over $10 million in lower debt service payments for next year's budget. The bulk of those savings should flow right down to fund balance. And we're projecting, as long as the town, fiscal 23 budget is structurally balanced, that total debt service should approach over $14 million. So there were a number of investors that participated in the bond sale. It was 6 times oversubscribed. And this debt plan that we have is allowing the town to gradually ramp up their debt service payments by $2 million a year until they get to their, what we call, natural rate of about $30 million a year.
My question about the natural rate, I don't think that we have seen that was a natural rate for the past few years.
You're right.
So when you use that term, I'm squirmish.
Yes, and just to clarify that, so several years ago, the town did have some budgetary issues in funding their pension 100% that was required, and they had some problems with their medical self-insurance fund. So at the time, several years ago, the town did a restructuring that lowered their debt service by $12 million. And the town lowered.
And how did they do that?
Well, they did a debt restructuring,
right?
A la Hartford, similar to what Hartford did.
And you pushed it out. You pushed it out, correct?
Correct.
Okay. I just want clarity.
Yes, a debt restructuring where debt was pushed out to the future, and the current debt was lowered by roughly $12 million. The town lowered their debt service budget by $12 million. Use those savings to help fund pension contributions to 100%, and also to fund to fix a problem in medical self-insurance. So the problem with that was their debt is gradually floating back up to that natural rate that I referred to of $30 million. So the genesis of the beginning of this debt service plan was to allow that debt service to grow at $2 million a year. So currently, existing debt for fiscal 23 should be about $27 million. And we did a restructuring where debt is only going to be $26 million. So it should be 27. The town is paying $26 million. So they still have to go up to about $30 million. So that's why there's one more phase to this debt restructuring that we're planning for next year. And at that point, the town should be pretty close to that natural rate again of $30 million a year.
With a drop off all the way down in 2034, which would bring them back to like 18.
Exactly. It's going to be a while before they get there, but
if more refinancing doesn't happen. My biggest question is did you just not push the money out, because it looks like there could be in 2033 a large balloon payment? No.
Well, the town's existing debt in 33 prior to this dropped dramatically from roughly 30 million to 18 million. Now, after this restructuring that we did, is we saved the town roughly 10 million in next year's budget, but we pushed that 10 million out to fiscal 33. So instead of there being a drop in 33, it's going to be relatively flat 33. It'll be 34 where the decrease happens.
Right.
So it's not the best way to do things, but I think it accomplishes two things for the town. One, it allows them to gradually ramp up their debt service by $2 million a year to get to that 30 million, and they're well on their way there. And in addition to doing that, the town is budgeting $26 million for debt service for next year, but their actual debt service is going to be about $8 million less than that. So automatically in next year's budget, assuming that the town's budget is structurally balanced, $8 million should flow right into fund balance.
Understand the method, yeah.
Just curiosity, has anybody done a discounted cash flow on the restructuring to compare what is and what will be, or what was and what is?
We do a cash flow analysis, and on a present value basis, the
Right.
bonds we refinance were at roughly 5%, and the new bonds came in at 3.9%. So we
Okay.
actually refinanced at a lower rate, but
Okay.
the town is not paying off those bonds next year. They're paying them off 10 years in the future. So there is a interest cost to the town for that. On a present value basis, it's about $225,000 of a negative present value cost to the town.
Any other questions for the members at this moment while we have, I guess, are you the bond attorney?
No.
Financial advisor.
Financial advisor. Because I'm sure we want to stay focused on this piece first, and then we'll come back around. Glenn?
Barry, you said that there was present value savings. How much is being pushed out with the, you're saying that they're saving 10 million in the first year and such. What's being pushed out? You use the phrase a la Hartford.
Right. So if I said there was present value savings, I misspoke. There was a present value cost to the town of about $225,000 on a present value basis. But basically, Glenn, we scooped out $10 million of debt service from next year's budget and pushed it out to fiscal 33. So took it out at 23, pushed it to 33, where there's a big drop off. So it allows, again, the two goals is to gradually ramp up debt service by 2 million and to let those additional savings flow down to fund balance. So we anticipate over the next two or 3 years that the town will have over $20 million of fund balance. But of course, the main driver, and it came up during the rating reviews too, is that this plan only works if the town's operating budget, their core budget, is structurally balanced. If they have a deficit of $5 million in next year's budget, the bulk of this savings is just going to go away to balance the budget. So this plan only works if they have structurally balanced budgets.
So is 2045 the final maturity for the pension debt?
Yes. Yes. And Kate, the fact that you brought that up, all of this debt restructuring, we do not touch the pension bonds at all. All we touch are the capital project bonds. We're not allowed to touch the pension bonds.
And what's the thinking going out in 2023? I'm sorry, 2033. I guess, it's a long way off, but you'll have a tremendous drop in debt service at that point. Is the idea that you'll have the ability for the town to grow in that time?
Well, at that time, I'm assuming there'll be future capital needs at that point, and those future capital needs will slot into that. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
That is a good question, Barry, and to the mayor or Curtis. If you have future capital needs, and if you're saying that the natural debt service is going to become the $30 million, if you have any capital needs from now until 2031, then that natural balance will be much higher than that. Is that accurate, or is that not a good assumption on my part?
True, but we have a plan for that. So
okay.
The town is selling a large school to ACES. Wintergreen School is being sold for $16 million. We're closing on that today. And so, so that is part of our plan. Right now, our fiscal year 22 budget was produced by the previous administration. It was not structurally balanced. I am so invested in making sure that we have structurally balanced budgets and that we are putting the amount that we have promised our investors into the fund balance, that I'm taking a portion of the Wintergreen sale so that we put the appropriate amount into our fund balance. Then we are taking the remainder of the proceeds from Wintergreen and putting it in a capital non-recurring fund, so that we can use that to pay for maintenance to our town and capital projects. We've also been very, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was going to ask what your capital project budget runs on a normal basis.
The town has gone a couple years without having a real capital budget. It should probably be around $10 million. And what we are doing is getting so much assistance from the state of Connecticut right now. We announced yesterday that we have $8.6 million to build a firehouse. We've gotten funding for streetlights. I think it's around $3.7 million for streetlights. We have $1.3 million for renovations to our community center. So we've been asking for money from the state and working with our state delegation to make that happen. We're taking advantage of lot SIP grants. So the amount that we have to spend is mostly for the engineering and architectural design for any of these projects. So obviously with lot SIP, we have to pay for the design work, and then the state picks up the tab for the construction costs. So our capital budget is very much built out of paying for these design costs, and we are using Wintergreen, the proceeds from Wintergreen, to pay for our capital budget, so that we can reduce the amount that we have to bond.
But that won't carry you for many years.
Well, so we have more going on to make sure that we are constantly putting money into this capital non-recurring fund. Okay. So we also have state property, High Meadows. The state has allowed us to purchase this for $1.3 million. We can immediately turn it around and sell it to an investor, put it on the grand list, and make a profit from the sale. So that profit will go into the capital non-recurring fund. We're going to be able to sell the property where the current firehouse is when we build the new firehouse, and we can put the sale of that building into the fund. We want to use our ARPA funding to build a community center that houses a branch library, a senior branch, and takes over the previous community center. So that gives us another opportunity to sell more town-owned properties by centralizing all of our services that we provide to people. So we do have plans for selling off more town assets so that we can inject more money into the capital non-recurring fund.
So have you done any kind of like a 5-year plan for the fund that you could share with us in the future?
So we don't have a 5-year plan for the fund. Right now we have a capital budget for the next year. And any the plans for putting more town property sales into the fund, it would be hard to judge what the value of those properties would be moving forward. The market's a little volatile.
Okay, let me just ask a different question then. Do you have a 5-year plan at all for any of your, because to me, it is a concern. If your $30 million is your target, you're there in fiscal 25, you're not going to have room, what I'm seeing, for adding debt, or unless you go above your target range. So it'd be nice to see, I hear what you're saying, and that plan sounds really great. And I like the concept that you're going to use those one-time revenues for capital and put into the fund where they can be expended over a number of years. But it'd be nice to see some kind of a 5-year outlook. So, you know, how that's going to go.
Okay. So we have a 5-year plan for our operating budget, but we don't have a 5-year plan for the capital non-recurring fund. Those funds were established a couple of weeks ago by the council, so they're very
Okay, so yeah. I'm sure Moody's will love it if you get it put together. So, you know, I think it'll be nice to show and to see, provide people with comfort that despite you hitting this, you know, your targeted debt service with everything else that already exists, that you will have capital projects going forward.
Right.
I think I just froze.
So are there any other questions about that before I move on to our fiscal year 23 budget?
Not from me. Anybody else?
I had one quick one. If I can ask, in your letter, Mayor, you had put that wintergreen sale was also going to address deficits in some accounts in the current fiscal year.
Correct.
Is there any number on that for what's covering the deficits and what's going to be in, you know, going into those capital accounts?
Yes. So we're running close to $3 million over budget for medical. The fiscal year 22 budget was not funded at the recommendation from our medical brokers. So we have the $3 million for that. And then there was a cost avoidance, a negative expense that was put in fiscal year 22 for $750,000 for quote townwide savings, which it didn't happen because the budget was underfunded to begin with. And then we've had a lot of retirements, particularly in police and fire. And so our retirement buyouts have been much larger than was budgeted for by about $1 million. $1.7 million. So with that amount, we're looking at, $5.5 or so million. So wintergreen will be reduced by about $5.5 million, leaving us with $10.5 million that will go into the capital non-recurring fund.
Thank you.
I also have a question. When you're doing your 5-year operating budget projections, are you building in projections of your pension and OPEB costs that are prepared by the actuary? And are they stress tested? For instance, in the current fiscal year, you know, the markets have been rocky. So do you have some analysis of how investment performance might move the line items in your budget? There's such big numbers that sensitivity around how those numbers might change, I think, would be important in your planning process.
So with our pension, we recently did an experience study to determine if our guesses around the market activity is appropriate, you know, if our mortality rate is appropriate. So the experience study, I think, is going to be very helpful in determining if what we believe our pension, our payments are going to be moving forward are accurately reflected. So I think we're still fine tuning all of that. Did we get the experience study back? Yeah, I got the experience study back. Okay, so while I produced the 5-year plan during budget deliberations for the council, as new information comes forward, obviously we'll have to update that.
But I do applaud you for having a formal experience study performed. That's a key component of making sure that the numbers you're budgeting are are designed to fully fund those programs over time. But I was referring actually to the numbers you're plugging into your operating budget projections, your 5-year plan there. And it'd be important to have the actuaries provide numbers for you and sensitivity around those numbers. What if next year's investment performance is up or down, so that you have a sense for how those important parts of your operating budget might be moving over that 5-year period.
So obviously I spoke about the pension. Which other expenses in the budget are you thinking of?
Well, both pension and what you pay for retiree medical benefits. Those have the potential to rapidly increase. And I think you want to know what's coming rather than be hit by it, when it comes. And your actuaries can provide both short-term and long-term forecasts for you with some sensitivity analysis, so you know how much those numbers might move over the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years.
So we actually just went out to bid for a medical agent of record, saved almost $200,000 on our fees for that. So I think more information about our medical, which includes town board of ed, active employees and retirees, all in that medical. So as we work with them, our new agent of record, I think we'll get some beneficial information there. And Curtis, would you like to talk about OPEB a little bit?
Yes, the town in its fiscal year 2023 budget has put in some of its largest contribution to the OPEB, constantly working on trying to lower our large debt in that area. We put in additional $250,000. The mayor initially recommended $1 million. The council did not approve that, but the $500,000 is a total recommended adopted number that they put into the OPEB. We understand that the OPEB is something that we're working on slowly, and hopefully in the future we will continue to increase our contributions so that we can lower that large deficit.
But the liability at this point is so large that really it's going to take a lot of work with our unions to reduce that large amount that we have out there in a liability.
Okay, are we good? Okay, go ahead, Mayor, you can move on.
So we also had, I'm sorry. Was somebody else talking?
No.
Okay, all right. So I also wanted to go through some of the fiscal year 23 responses to our management letter findings. The council did fund a junior accountant who will be responsible for overseeing the town's pension fund. As Curtis said, they funded $500,000 for OPEB, which is double the amount that the town had been contributing to OPEB. And we are going to work with Siegel for more reconciliation and training for the junior accountant that was funded. The council also funded a position of a planner 1 in the planning and zoning office, which will help us get economic development moving along quicker at the ground level. And they funded additional positions, 2 additional positions in the assessor's office, so that our grand list can be accurate and up to date, which I think will benefit next year's budgeting.
That's great.
Thank you.
I had a quick question on your projections, and sorry if this was covered while I was out of the room, but looks like you have a shortfall in taxes anticipated. Is there a particular reason why?
Yes, that's because the fiscal year 22 budget had an assumed collection rate of 98.8. Fiscal year 23 assumes 97.7. The town was using an assumption rate that was
Too high?
very much too risky.
Okay. Okay. And, look, that's next town. All right. Does anybody else have any other questions for the city of Hamden, town of Hamden?
No.
No? Okay. Thank you. Thank you. I think you guys are making good progress.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, on to Plymouth.
And Kate, for the record, Plymouth is a client of our firm.
All right. And who do we have? Grace.
Grace Zweig, Director of Finance, and Mayor Joe Kilduff is here as well.
Okay. My first question, let's see. 2021 results. Estimated reporting date. Do we have one?
Well, on the town side, we're done. I've been talking with the auditors fairly often, once or twice a week. They are currently in the review process, and it has to go to partner review, and we expect it in the next week or two to be done.
Okay, and if we're getting the 21 audit in a couple of weeks, what's your goal for the 22 audit?
To file on time.
And do you think that's realistic?
We are taking your recommendation to the advisory committee's recommendation to bring in a temporary part-time staff person to help us get up to date in our reporting and our reconciliations. The plan is to do it.
Okay.
We are already on the auditor's schedule for October. So, yep, we're gonna have it by December 31st.
Okay. All right. I'm just looking down to see, looking for my little yellow sticky notes to see where I had questions, if any. Maybe I'm seeing any. Diane, do you have any questions?
I do not.
Glenn?
I do not.
All right. John?
I do not.
Becky, you're conflicted. Tony?
Yes, actually, I have one question on the 2022 revenues. Just a clarification. It appears as if, and I'm not sure, this might just be an accounting issue, but it appears as if through 5/31, you don't have anything for actuals with state grants, intergovernmental, but you project $10 million through June.
We had that was something with ECS before, wasn't it? We had questions on that previously.
Yeah, no, if you look over to the right, we did project.
I see a project. I was just curious what was coming in June. Usually, I know all of ours are pretty much in.
I think it was an entry that needed to be recorded, that they were not up to date with their entries.
And wasn't it ECS?
Exactly, we're not up to date with our cash receipts and our bank reconciliations, and that's an issue that we are addressing.
Okay, so that's a concern.
It's currently going. Yeah, the town council is meeting July 12th to approve the funding for that position.
Wait. Funding for the person who will make this transaction.
Yeah, to catch us up with our bank recs and our cash receipts, as well as somebody who's going to, help us with like the ARPA reporting and that kind of stuff, recording ARPA.
So when are your bank's recs completed through?
We have quite a variety, so it depends which bank rec you're talking about. Some are through May, some, some are, up to date, some, require a lot of attention.
Or do you have like a
I mean,
major?
they're done through fiscal year 21, that's for sure. So,
Do you have a major general fund bank reconciliation?
yes,
or?
our checking account, like our main general fund bank account. Yeah, that one is the one that really needs
Work.
Needs attention. But
I'll just give you an example of I worked in a former municipality where the bank recs weren't done on time, and when we finally caught them up, we found a theft going on over a 3-month period, and would have never found it if the bank recs weren't caught up. So just to
yes, I'm quite aware of that, and I've been here about 6 months, so I kind of inherited. Like when I got here, the 2021 bank recs weren't even finished. So
okay.
Yeah, Tony's right. It's important that they be so many, not just theft, but simple errors can be found by getting your bank recs done.
I'm in complete agreement with you. My bank recs were done in my previous position in a day or two after the month end.
Well, I think this isn't just for you to be saying, it's for the elected officials to understand the importance of appropriate staffing and segregation of duties. That the person who's making the deposits can't be doing the bank recs and things like that. That these things have to happen, or you can have errors. You can have misfeasance, malfeasance. Very important. Tony, did you have any?
Yeah, and I'm not going to speak for other people, but the feeling I get is that they're very much on board with that. And Mayor Joe is here if he wants to make a comment.
Yes, hello. Yes, we are very much on board with it. I do expect the council to approve the funding for this position, which will at that point give us 3 full-time staff and a part-time person. And the thought is we can review that position as the year goes on and determine its need to stay in. And then if it does, next year we would include it in our operating budget and move along with that additional staff person if it is deemed necessary. So we're kind of using this as another trial, and then move. And if it works out and it looks like it is needed, we will continue with that position moving forward.
That's good to hear.
Yes. And if there is a recommendation that this committee would like to pass forward, somebody that might be willing to help us out for this position, we'd happily take that recommendation as well. I know in the past, this committee did give a recommendation that the town did take up, and if there is somebody that's available or would like to help us out, we would love that recommendation as well.
Okay. I don't know of anybody offhand, but we'll keep that in mind.
Thank you.
Tony, did you have any other questions, Tony?
No, that was it. That's great that you're committed to that. I just know from my own experience, having a good handle on cash is probably one of the most important things you can do.
Yes. I think we've all had that experience at one time.
Yeah.
Yes, and I fully accept that, and am determined to get us to the point where we're closing our month's end on time and making sure our reporting is all on time for all the reasons that you've just stated, and we're committed to doing that and getting to the point where we don't have to come to these meetings anymore, so which is the ultimate goal. So
yeah, not that we don't want to see you, but that's our goal.
No,
too.
of course.
It is our goal.
Yes.
And believe it or not, before the changing of the guards, you guys were almost there. So
Yeah.
every year we were almost ready to
Yep.
let you go, and then boom, what did they use? They used fund balance in their budget to
Yeah.
balance their budget, and I'm like, okay, that's what made you come back, so that we
Well,
had to see a clean audit. And so now you have the change, you're further behind, and it would be great if you get back caught up.
Well, I'm happy to report in my first budget, I did not use fund balance. We used zero fund balance, and we fully funded our pensions. So those
That's
two things were very important to me. And we're going to continue to do that, barring something crazy happening. That's the intention. And so once we get caught up, my hope is that we can get to that point again and then finally get to where we all need to be.
So is the new position posted? Or no, it was just approved?
Yeah, so it should be approved by the council. I am very confident the council will approve it at our July 12th. And then at that point, we will move out for that position at that point.
Okay, so July 12th is what's pending.
Yes, is our next council meeting. And like I said, I'm reasonably confident that that position will be approved at that meeting. And then we'll get on it right away.
Okay.
Okay. Go ahead, can you keep?
And I would have included it in this year's budget, but by the time the recommendation came down, our budget had been completed. So I have to do another appropriation. So.
Okay. One other question: how is cash receipts? A year behind, just like the bank reconciliations. Both items are that far behind from reconciling and posting.
No.
Okay.
We're up to like March or April.
Okay.
It's just anything that's direct deposited or accounts would be recorded through the bank reconciliation.
Okay. So, okay. So that's what it is. It would be those entries that would. Okay.
I'm sorry.
It would be anything that would, as you're stating, is directly recorded in or into the account. So therefore, with the reconciliation is when you were booking those entries rather than booking them as they come in on a day-to-day basis and seeing cash, and then you could book the cash in cash receipts.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes, we don't have the staffing to do that. Yes.
That's not your process. You're doing it at a month-end close.
Correct.
All right.
Are you looking at any kind of procedures manual or policies and check off lists, make sure things don't get lost? Even recognizing dates like state grants, some of them, when they're going to come, the grant is due by October, and to make sure that gets received and posted. Any kind of process to make sure that these things, somebody's on top of it, making sure that they all happen every.
Well, that is something that is definitely on my to-do list, is to, make document processes and procedures and implement those types of things, checklists.
Yeah, even sometimes just a simple checklist at the end of the month can help get everybody in the habit of making sure that stuff doesn't get overlooked. All right, anybody have anything else? I think you guys are back on the right track, but we're going to need to see that 21 audit soon and the recommendations and any findings, and absolutely going to want to see the 22 audit coming in on time before anything can, before we can consider releasing you. Okay.
Absolutely understand, and the finance department has my full support, and any resources they need to get this done, we're going to make happen.
Terrific.
Yes,
thank you.
I wanted to comment that the mayor and I work very closely, and he's very supportive of the finance department. So we're getting there. As far as once the 21 audit is issued, you want me to send it right out to you, right?
Well, you have to send it to the state, so I'm sure once they get it, we'll see it.
Oh, okay. So I don't have to worry about getting it to the committee.
You can get that out to us once you receive it, correct?
We can.
Yeah, and I'd be interested in seeing the findings, if any.
That has to get uploaded to the system as well, both of them.
Yeah.
I think it would be helpful. Sometimes we're not on alert of when the auditor goes in. So Grace, when the auditor is ready to do that, or when you have a completed form, why don't you just share that with Bill and myself? And then we can push that out to MFAC. Okay.
Okay, so I'll shoot you guys an email, let you know that it's out there.
Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Of course. Well, thank you. And yes, please keep in mind as far as a recommendation for that part-time position.
Yeah,
Staff account position. Yeah, that would be a great help.
Obviously, someone with municipal experience would be a great help to Grace, and obviously her being fairly new as well and a new administration. So definitely looking for that. Obviously, if that's not possible, we'll go with what we can find, but that is our first priority.
Okay. All right, think about it. Thank you. So next up is outstanding other towns with haven't gotten their 21 audit in. Do we have any updates from staff on what's going on with, aside from the ones that we talked to today?
I just checked the our online system, and all those reports are still outstanding. So none has come in since the time we produced this list. I am concerned probably about 4 or 5 as to when we will actually get those reports.
Yeah, I'm concerned about the ones who they're 20. Brantford was really late, and Derby, well, we know about Derby, but Andover, Brantford, Danbury, East Lyme, they were all, New Haven, all really late last year. And
yes, and hopefully with the change in the statute, that'll give us a little bit more leverage. Sometimes a penalty isn't necessarily, a monetary penalty isn't necessarily helping. But threatening, coming under the MFAC would be, as Kim will allude to in the update. But we did make some changes to the statutes, which will hopefully give us a little bit more leverage because right now after June 30th, we cannot provide an extension. We let municipalities know that we still need to work with them as to getting these reports in, but there is really no other actions we can take besides levying a penalty.
Mm-hmm.
Bill, I noticed that there's several on here that are repeat customers, so to speak.
Yes.
It's not like this is an unknown. I mean, we all know we have an audit once a year.
Right.
I think that maybe with the upcoming changes, we'll get some motivation, and at least a definite red flag will be there, and hopefully some attention, right?
Well, there was a letter from the commission to several of these municipalities sent last year, and some of them it did help, but there are again some repeat repeat towns.
Is there a common cause? Do they really have reasons, or?
Be honest with you, I just don't think they put enough importance on it. It's like when we get around to it, I don't think they start the process. Andover is constant. It's one reason after another, and every year it's
And they seem to always be a year, the year after the fiscal period ends that they submit.
Bill, when we have somebody, a town that is, there are 2 there, but take Bloomfield. It's never been late, and then all of a sudden it's almost.
Part of that was a new finance director. Curtis Eatman was the finance director, and he left in close to audit time, and that was one of the they had to find someone, and so there was some delay. So we, some of these, again, not that it's good, but there is some understanding, while others, it's it's constantly one reason after another.
Yeah. Okay.
And we know West Haven is on here because they switched the audit firm, the prior audit firm resigned, so there's a new,
resigned?
there's
Yes.
some
After the publicity.
Mm.
Well, and also the ARPA money and the fraudulent,
CARES money?
yes, with the
Yeah.
CRF fund. Yes.
Yeah.
So there were a lot of issues following our internal forensic audit on them with the CARES money.
Okay. All right. Well, whatever we can do to encourage them.
Bill, we haven't sent out a letter this year on behalf of the commission. We could do that again. Now that we're after June 30th, whenever we did that last year.
Can we have two different kinds? Like one that, hello, you're a repeat offender.
Yeah.
And the other ones that have not been lately passed, like, looking at, say, Middletown and Bloomfield saying, can we, what can be done about that?
Yeah, I think, we'll see how many come in by the end of the week. June 30th is the absolute deadline for audits. After that, there's no extensions to be granted. So I think we could develop some letters after that date.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what I was referring to, just so that the commission is aware of the intent. Okay.
Okay.
Oh, Grace, do you have your hand up for us? Oh, she's still with us. Oh.
Yes, I do. So I'm a little confused, since this is really my first time going through something like this. What we need to do, since our audit's not going to be done for a week or two, we can't file another extension, correct?
No. Now you're non-compliant.
Okay. All right.
I don't think it does do much to them since they're already under our oversight.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm sorry, what was that?
Since Plymouth is already under our oversight, is there anything additional that would be happening to them with the new laws?
With the new laws, there will be other things and other categories that would be taken into consideration. So, for instance, if they had a lot of audit findings on top of their late audit, with the new laws that I'm going to explain to you soon, is coming up in October. This commission could then, based on the number of triggers and the number of factors, make a decision to elevate them to the MARB.
Okay.
Okay. For every municipality that will be under the MFAC oversight.
Yep. Okay.
We will now have that leverage to be able to do that, so that this way they can get additional help where needed.
Okay. All right. Does that help, Grace?
Yes, thank you. But being that we are on the right track, hopefully that will not be the recommendation.
Right. So it is in your best interest to stay on that and get back in order again.
Oh, absolutely. I'm committed to it.
Yep.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. You can lower your hand. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so then you're going to walk us through the
Yep. Just a quick PowerPoint to give you up to date. Do you want us to show it or no? Because the members have it in your package. So we're really excited about the changes that occurred with the municipal financial oversight and the new legislation that was passed this year. I want to tell you that it was sometimes an art more than the science, and a big education for this team. And I can tell you, without the team of Bill, and as well as Julian and a few others on our team, Michael is not with us today. He's on vacation. So I think Morgan as well. The help that we received really let us know it was not just making language changes. It was much bigger than that. And after you get done making that language change, you really need, I learned that you need the House and the Senate to actually agree to the changes that you're going to make. So we had to pitch our pitch, and after you get done pitching it, you could be right up to the end, to the final stages, and then we got like stop on a particular day. We may not approve this. What is the impact to this town or that town or the other town, which is the representatives of those towns, and we understand that. So we were able to push hard, work hard, and get these changes. So now this fragmented oversight systems that we have between MFAC and the MARB, both of them now will have a streamlined approach. It will be integrated. You'll be transparent. The towns will be able to make their own calculations based on the criteria that we've chosen. In the past, they could not. Only Bill Plummer could do the calculations for the MARB tiers. I can tell you that. That's how complicated it was. And in the end, the levels of complication still did not make sense in some cases, because some towns were falling under categories that they really should not. So we're excited about that. There are 7 criteria that is listed for the distressed municipalities, and it will be a progressive referral based on the severity of distress. And everybody will then flow through. We will look at where those triggers are, what is off. We will then communicate that to this committee, let them know where the towns fall. And then from there, the committee can then decide. The staff will also provide recommendations, but you'll also have your own input as to whether you feel a town would then decide to come forth or not come forth, based on the severity. And then if the levels of severity are such, then we would make those decisions as well, as a voting board. We've clarified a lot of redundancy that was in here, and we did add some indicators that are non-financial indicators, such as the audited financial statements, which is really important. We now have some indicators that will identify liquidity. The other one is going to be audit findings, and if they're material or not material. They're on page 6 of the presentation. You're going to see all of the changes. Some of the areas that did not have clarity were the means of stating operating budget. So now we're not going to use an operating budget. It's going to go to the financial statements. And so everybody reports their financial statements the same way. They're required to do that. And now we don't have to worry how a town budgets versus, we know that the data will be extremely, it will be always the same for all towns based on that criteria. I think we've brought you up to date on most of these items, and the ones that have no changes are staying the same with the bond ratings. Those will be continued to be, we have automatic triggers right to the MARB. So there are 3 ratings that were always there that were automatic triggers, and that will continue with the investment grade, the deficit bonds, and the refunding of bonds. The tiered structure in the MARB is the same. Once we get to there, MFAC will have a decision to make as far as, what level of tiering, do they automatically go to a 2? Do we think that they're, we've been working with them for some time, they should be considered for a tier 3? And that's what this board will then make recommendations to the MARB on. There still is a voluntary method if should a town find out now that they're in distress and it's in the budget part of it. And similar to what happened to our Sprague when they came to the MARB, they came in voluntarily and they, had an immediate need and needed an immediate financial assistance. That is still available. And then we have a workflow for you on the oversight. Bill, did I miss anything that you would like to add?
No, I think that's it. Like you said, once it gets to the meets any of those 7 conditions, then there's an automatic referral to the MFAC, but the MFAC will do evaluation and decide to, it could be an anomaly, and therefore you release the municipality, and or you keep him at under the MFAC, or you make a recommendation to the Secretary of OPM for MARB oversight.
And this,
sorry.
Go ahead, Kate. Sorry.
Just going to ask who the municipal representatives on the MARB are right now.
Municipal representatives.
We have a finance director.
Yes.
Attorney.
Bill, help me. Why am I having a brain
It's not based
trip?
upon, isn't it based upon just the governor
size.
and the legislature? Right.
No, this one's the size. Yes, no, it is the governor. Currently, do I have any municipal?
Well, Tom used to be. Tom,
yes, it was Tom. It was Tom Hamilton.
Yeah.
He just retired. He's allowed to stay and finish his term. So it is Tom is the municipal gentleman. Then we have a bond attorney. We have similar representations as we do here.
Okay.
And a little different because we do have a labor somebody from labor, legal. Actually 2 labor. One individual was worked on the labor side in the collective bargaining. We have 2 in the collective bargaining area, Sal and Mark Waxenberg.
Yep. Okay.
And the treasurer, myself. Yeah, and most of those were appointed from the governor. Are the others that have been there for some time.
Thanks. I was just curious.
Sure. I mean, I could list them all off if you'd like it.
No, that's okay.
Okay. And I think that is all we have for this committee, and we're just about on time. I don't, Bill, do we have any other? We have no other items, other related items to bring to your attention. Nope.
All right. Then a motion to adjourn would be in order.
So moved.
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anybody
Thank you.
opposed on pain of death?
Thank you, Kate. Thank you, members.
Thank you
and
all.
have
We
a
are
great holiday
adjourned.
weekend.
Bye. Thank
You
you.
too, Kim. Bye-bye.
Bye.